Studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now Andy Berry. He's a senator who represents District 35 in the Mississippi State Senate, also the executive director of the Mississippi Beef Council. Senator Berry, thanks for coming on.
Well, I appreciate the invitation, Gerard. Thank you for having me this afternoon.
You bet. So we've been talking this morning about leadership in the respective houses in the Capitol there, working alongside the governor to get back into a special session and pass a budget for the state of Mississippi. Do you have any update for us you can share?
I don't have any update. I think that, I'd say the overwhelming majority of members are ready for that call to happen. The uncertainty of not knowing when we're coming back and just lingering business of the state hanging out there, we're ready to get back and get it done. I know that I was listening earlier, and I heard you reference Chairman Harkins talk about it's going to cost, I think, $80,000 to bring us back, and we did leave a little early, so that hopefully is a wash when we come back. But I would say that, looking big picture at that, it may be a plus to the state that we didn't get this done early. When you look at the cuts that we're seeing out of Washington, that maybe we're going to tighten the belt a little bit and not have as much expenditures that we would have had some of these cuts and rumors of cuts from D.C. Hanging over our heads there.
Yeah, and specifically, there are significant cuts that will affect the Department of Health. Dr. Dan Edney has explained that to us. Of course, the Medicaid program is kind of in a state of flux, not really sure what's going to happen there. There's possibly some education dollars as well. Other federal funds, which I think are about double what the state actually appropriates to operate state government and provide all the services. It's just not clear at this point, the federal government's action as they're continuing to work through a possible budget. But you guys are likely to have something completed before the federal government completes its final budget there, and that might cause some problems next year, potentially.
Yeah, I think everybody is keeping an eye on that. You just look every day, there's a new cut. I saw I have a particular focus to agriculture, and I saw that the USDA is proposing about 30% cut in their budget. They've lost about 15,000 staff members nationwide in USDA. So that's just an example of what's going on nationally. And I think it's healthy that we look at ways to trim our spending. I think about it personally. I've got subscriptions. My kids have signed us up for different video game subscriptions along the years that are just recurring expenses that happen without any authorization, and I know there's got to be tons of that in the federal government and probably here in state as well. So, I know we've got to do some cutting, and maybe we talk about cuts, then maybe it's not as bad when we actually get to it. Federally.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Senator Berry, about the way this tax reform legislation went down?
Well, I think everybody is in favor of cutting taxes. The Senate has been no secret that we were trying to do a little bit more cautious cut. We were doing it in good faith and wanted to cut them, and that's what we ultimately did. We needed some revenue for roads and bridges, and so we added that gas portion and then cut the grocery tax. That was a universally I think, positive step of cutting the grocery tax back down to 5%. So, hopefully it's a win for Mississippi. I think that we've got to, again, be cautious going forward of what we cut with these federal cuts looming over our head.
Yeah. Well, the triggers, as you know, that were contemplated in the Senate's version of tax reform that would have at least applied some tests, if you will, to the financial status of the state going into a given year before any reductions were made on the income tax. That essentially got nullified based on the drafting error. So it looks like that we're going to proceed full speed ahead by incrementally reducing the income tax to full elimination. Are there any concerns on your part that this may leave a hole in the revenue side of the picture in the state budget that might cause some budgetary problems down the line.
Well, I don't see how it couldn't, Gerard. It's like that's what I opened up talking about is the majority of our money in Mississippi that we budget is federal dollars that we give authority to spend, and a smaller portion of that is actual Mississippi tax money. So, yeah, it's a huge concern. What do we do? We've got there's a little bit of I believe maybe difference in opinions of what happens after the 4 years of the set cuts, and so what we actually wind up seeing how those triggers work. I think, at least I've heard, and what I can see, there might be a potential two ways that those triggers actually kick in after the 4 years of the set cuts.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any concerns that you've heard from any of your colleagues that, we really don't have an offset in terms of additional revenue raised from sales taxes the way the original House bill would have. And also don't have any triggers to protect against the possibility of going a little too deep on the cuts and that causing a problem to deliver the services required or authorized or expected from the state.
Yeah, I think that any elected official, the last thing they want to do is come back and raise a tax or have to just make major cuts of things that we weren't anticipating or planning for. History kind of repeats itself, and we've seen state government have to make just major cuts before, hiring freezes and all those things. And so, yes, you wouldn't be human if you weren't concerned about that going forward. And, we just got to hope our economy continues to grow and these cuts work out like we think they will, and be ready to deal with that as it comes.
Talk about the beef industry. How's it doing in the state of Mississippi?
It's great. Gerard, actually, I'm driving back to the airport. I was supposed to fly out this morning, and we got a rain delay because of Dallas, and so I was able to drive back down Highway 49 to see my son do an awards day. He's graduating later this week, and past just, I bet, probably 15, 20 trucks hauling cattle. So in Mississippi right now, it is gathering time for the yearlings that's been grazing all winter long. They're going west to be fed and then ultimately turned into your favorite steak or hamburger. So it's a busy time. The markets are exceptionally well. We're probably the one sector in agriculture that has a really good market financially for our cattle, which we need that because of all the input prices that have gone up, equipment and all the other things that we do. But the market right now is a good time to be a cowboy. What
about the impact, if any, of tariffs, Senator Berry?
Yeah, so the tariffs are something that we are looking at. A lot of the places that we've put the tariffs on, China is going to be one of the bigger concerns of sending beef there. But some of the ones that we posed on imports, we don't get a lot of beef from those places, particularly the Asian markets. Most of our beef is South America, Australia, that gets shipped in here that we get ground into hamburger. But we have, I think, a pretty good situation right there that I don't anticipate major price influences for the American consumers on beef. And hopefully that we're going to get some deals worked out with some of these other foreign countries that we haven't already to make sure that our export is of huge value to our carcass of beef, particularly on things that we might not enjoy eating here. Tripe, or there's a part of the intestine called honeycomb that is big in Asian markets, or other entrails or the sweetmeats, just things that we would put into dog food derive a much better value when we ship them out of the country.
Interesting. Any legislation that you'd like to see become law, or any policies you'd like to see enacted into law that specifically with respect to the cattle industry? Anything you guys need?
Well, locally, we have been looking to, talking of taxes. That's one of the things that we can't control the markets or necessarily our inputs, but maybe reduce some taxes on some of our inputs. We've looked at trying to do that on some of our fencing supplies. We enjoy things, reduce taxes on like fertilizer and feed and vaccines and things like that. So something like that. Nationally, we're really concerned about like the death tax or bonus depreciation are some things that we want, and we desperately need a farm bill on the national side of things, not just for livestock, but for all of agriculture.
Yep.
And it's getting more doubtful by the day that we'll see that done in 2025. But that's some of the big ticket issues right now.
Appreciate you coming on, Senator Andy Berry. Enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
We're coming right back, folks, in the Element